every day I ask myself and I get a different answer. It's because I'm a different person, and I feel like leadership is evolution, and we have to be activists, not historians. The worst leaders are the ones that are like, dude, 2 years ago, I did this. 3 years ago, this is how this worked. I sold this many accounts then. It's like, bro, no one wants to work with a historian. We want activists. You know, someone wants a leader that's in the trenches with the fucking pitchfork, like with their people, you know?
Yes.
So
any good leader out there should be humble enough to have that same feeling. Like, and I'm saying this like this is all part of leadership development, is having to go through those experiences, find yourself in a much better and powerful way. I look at like, if I as a leader right now would go run a sales organization, it would be so different than me 5-6 years ago when I was running a sales organization. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, the amount of level up and leadership with consciousness and empathy and understanding and empowerment and delegation and systems and all the things. I'm like, man, I was such a young, naive, thought I had it all figured out, piece of crap. Anyway. What's up, everybody? This is Sam Taggart with the D2D podcast, and helping people expand their life, expand the lives they lead. And Devin Anderson, who I'm about to bring on, is probably one of the coolest stories that I've watched in our little mastermind. And I met Devin a long time ago, and just to see his development, his growth through his journey, 21 years old, CEO of Source Energy, and to watch some of these guys at a young age take the risk to go challenge themselves to be an entrepreneur, and really the journey to do so well. I think there's a lot of people who are like solopreneurs, and they're just like individual sales guys that really call themselves business owners in this industry. But watching Devin get into the industry at a very young age, he put in the work, he put in the time, he put in the leadership development. He's one of the sharpest cats I know, doing 100 to 200 a month. They did 400 last quarter in solar. I mean, on track to their second year in business to do 30 million. I mean, to have a guy, one, as humble as he is, as committed as he is to growth, as being in our mastermind, I've gotten to know Devin very well, different events, different, just intimate conversations, hanging out. It's been cool to watch his journey. So if anybody's listening out there that's a young hustler, young entrepreneur, this is about to be some sheer, just solid wisdom, faith bomb, truth bombs, raw, authentic journey with Devin. I'm excited to have you on the show, man. Welcome out.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me, Sam. We'll go all out for the next 50 minutes and really do our best to provide value. So I'm stoked. Thanks for having me.
So just before we even start, like, knowing what you know now, I mean, you're still young and hungry and hustler, and what would you tell? You've listened to a lot of podcasts, you've been to a lot of our events, you've drank the Kool-Aid. What would you tell anybody that's listening right now as far as just like a big impact that's helped you grow fast? What are some cheat codes that like maybe some people might be missing up on?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is, one, having some sort of internal core values that you can operate off of on a consistent basis. Find a world-class mentor and attach to a vision or some sort of mechanism that's bigger than yourself that you can truly believe in. I think leading up to this point, and even now, I went through these phases of seeking mentorship over money, then seeking money, and then thinking that I had it all figured out, and then seeking money over mentorship, and realizing that the money wasn't there because the mentorship component was gone. But if I could boil it down, I'd say finding a world-class mentor, having a clear fundamental core value that's internal that you can always operate off of, and then being a part of something that's bigger than yourself.
Oh, I love that. That is so good. And I've been privileged to be one of your mentors. I wouldn't say I'm the only one, but it's been fun to come to your office and spend time with you. And I'm a first believer of, like, I've learned probably just as much from you as I feel like I've taught you, and just having in proximity, man, it's been It's been a super big blessing. Anybody that knows Devin would probably say the same thing. And I'm sure you've gone through, it's interesting. I actually just talked to one of your old reps who's left you. And I know some of your other old reps that have left you. And I know that you've gone through some leadership dynamics that you've had to learn some hard lessons. And I've been there, man. I remember the first 2 years. It's funny. We've had a lot of good conversations around this. So if you're a leader right now leading a team and you've had reps leave you and you're like, what the heck? Like, I'm just trying my best. And they go start their own, or they get recruited out away from you. And I lost twice my team entirely. And so I know that feeling. What advice would you give a leader now that you're starting to develop some core guys and you've had some guys be there with you a long time, but like advice for a manager that's seen turnover and seen they've recruited talented people, lost them, recruited talented people? Like, what things did you learn having to go through those experiences to get to where you're at now?
Oh my gosh, I could write and I've actually considered writing a whole book on this. Thank you for asking this, and I think this is going to be super valuable.
No, I was going to ask this question, guys.
I'm so happy to talk about this, to save so many, because the mistakes I've made, they've been bought and paid for. So anyone that I can help on this, like, listen to this, because it's going to happen. And then there's also mechanisms that we can create to prevent them from happening. And if I could boil it down to one thing, it'd be empowerment. And then there's 7 phases of empowerment. And to kind of, I'll cover that if you don't mind, but to kind of backtrack, the main reason why I'd like to say I've not only recruited, but developed some of the top reps and guys in the industry, even now. Yeah. And there's 2 things that everyone that's listening to this need to understand. One, the way a rep responds to one company and another company is always going to be completely different. 2, people don't leave companies. They leave leaders. Yep. No matter what you want to say, like, if you have talent, good talent that is leaving you, they're not leaving the company. They're leaving you as a person and as a leader. And then the third thing is, it's like, when you don't create a mechanism for people to feel like they have purpose, autonomy, relationships, mastery, teamwork, these things, it's incredibly hard to like create a mechanism that people want to be a part of, because they feel like they're working for you, not with you. And that's one of the mistakes that I made at such an early age. I disempowered people. I had this mentality that if you couldn't do it as good as me, then I should just do it. So I didn't delegate, I didn't empower, I didn't do any of the fundamental things that any true, good, humble leader will be able to do. Man, I was doing cardio 2 days ago. We're thriving now. We're in the best position that we ever have been. And I felt guilty. Like, I had pain in my heart, Sam, because I'm like, I did such a massive disservice to a lot of my guys because I wasn't the leader that they needed me to be, that I wasn't ready to be. And they lost a beautiful opportunity and experience due to my lack of leadership. And now when I see some of these guys, they're not doing nearly as good prosperously, financially, emotionally, physically. And I'm like watching them still, and I'm like, that's like, it feels like it's on me.
Dude,
yeah, man.
Any good leader out there should be humble enough to have that same feeling. Like, and I'm saying this like this is all part of leadership development, is having to go through those experiences, find yourself in a much better and powerful way. I look at, like, if I as a leader right now would go run a sales organization, it would be so different than me 5-6 years ago when I was running a sales organization. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, the amount of level up and leadership and consciousness and empathy and understanding and empowerment and delegation and systems and all the things. I'm like, man, I was such a young, naive, thought I had it figured out, piece of crap. Anyway.
Dude, and I'm looking for it now, but there's 7 things that I make it a focal point. Any one of my leaders that are here now. So we have 8 managers. And this is something that every single week we make it a point as a sales leadership unit to focus on these 7 things consciously. And on our leadership huddle, we make it a deliberate, intentional point to provide 3 specific examples of how we're integrating these things. So if you're listening to this, write this down. Yeah. Number 1 is purpose. If you aren't a part of something that's bigger than yourself, you're going to have a have to life, right? But if you're a part of something that you truly believe in and it's bigger than yourself, your have to life turns into a want to life. And that's when purpose starts being created. The second thing is autonomy. I used to micromanage so much. If it was something like, it'd be the stupidest shit, Sam. I would die on my preference over the principle of something getting done so hard. And then I'd be like, why are my leaders like, what's going on? Why isn't the needle moving? Why am I have to do everything? Why don't people want to build? Why don't people want to recruit? Why don't people want to sell without me cracking the whip? Third thing is relationship, which I've always done such a good job doing. Like, contact beats content. You can be the best seller in the world. You can have door-to-door university, have the best slide deck that goes over all the fundamentals. But if you don't have a true relationship, people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. So I think that component right there helped me get to a certain point, because people were like, oh, but it's Devin, I love him and he's young. Until it just got to the point to where it's like, that's not enough, it's not enough for anyone, and it shouldn't be. The fourth thing is progress. Another thing, I have such high standards. And what I've realized even now is zoom out, right? If you can just make your people consistently feel and recognize the progress that they're making, and understand that input is the main mechanism of success, and you could just help them pull on a consistent basis, and they feel like they're winning. They feel like they're making progress. People want to continue to do something that they feel like they're getting better at. That's success, right? Active progression towards a worthwhile goal, right? Something like that. So the next thing is mastery, right? So what am I mastering? Helping them understand and say, I want to be a business owner. I want to be a world-class leader. I want to be the best sales professional in the world. I want to be the best rock climber. And this vehicle gives me the ability to fund rock climbing, have the best coaches, the best nutrition, etc. It's whatever that is. And the quality of our lives and the quality of our team is going to be the speed of the leader and the quality of questions we ask ourselves and the team. The next thing is recognition. Another key component that we've always done a good job doing, but it's like always recognizing, right? Whether it's top reps, anything. And one thing that's really fun that like has helped us move the middle herd up is recognizing people for silly things like, dude, shout out to Rico. Yesterday, he got 3 selfies with homeowners yesterday. You didn't get the numbers that you want, but let's get a 2 clap for Rico. 2 clap, and just getting these guys rocking and rolling. So, and then the last thing is money. The thing about money is satisfying needs don't motivate, and that's what people need to understand. People are always gonna hit a lid, and the issue is if you don't have a mechanism or a vehicle or engineer a system for people to deploy that capital out back into the economy to stay hungry and stay motivated and stay eager and stay broke, satisfying needs don't motivate, man. Once the mortgage is paid and the Tesla's paid and they've got their first Louis bag and their wife's good, and then what, So it's just being able to create an environment and a mechanism that can automatically engineer the behavior that you want your people to have, that they want to do, because the environment has been engineered to do so. So that was super long-winded, but I mean,
so good. Wow,
dude, like I'll end with this, bro. It's like what people need to understand is leadership is a liberal art, not a science. There's not just one way to do it, and I think that's the biggest thing that people need to understand. It's like it's a liberal art, not a science. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat.
It's a liberal art, not a science. Where'd you steal that from? That's too good. That's so good, because I think it's creation. It's creative. You write a song and people are like, is that good? It's like, that's good. It's all the perspective. It depends who's listening. It's like entrepreneurship is such a creative process around how do I want to design my training, to how do I want to run my meetings, to how do I want to run my sales marketing, and how do I want to, like who is in it, the components of it. Am I using pastels or am I using oil painting? You know what I mean?
Yep.
The components of who it is and the context. Oh, so good. Not a science. But I think too many people feel guilty for letting them be more artists. Like think about like, oh, well, I'm not doing the A plus B because I'm looking for the playbook of business. And I'm like, whoa, step in to realize you're an artist. Like
facts. Yep. So there's 4 questions every leader should ask themselves every single day. And like for me, 100%, some days it's a yes, other days it's a no. But if you define yourself as a leader, and anyone that's in a sales position should consider themselves a leader, I actually got like this notification on my phone from 4 years ago when I was like 18. I won this company cup at this company I used to be at. They had like 500 reps and I was just a rep. But part of me winning the cup is they were like, this is the first of all, he broke a bunch of records, but this kid's a rep. And the way he exemplifies 360-degree leadership, when a new person walks into his office that he's just a sales rep in, people think he's the manager. People think he's the leader, And I think that's something that's always been ingrained in me. But it's like, I've always had the mentality is like, I don't need a title. You can make sure my direct deposit clears on Friday, and I'm going to step up and lead the way regardless. And if I don't know where I'm going, I'm going to say, yo, where are we going, dog? Let's figure this shit out, And that's humility. But the 4 questions is, number 1, am I insecure? Number 2 is, do I like control? Number 3 is, do I want credit? And number 4 is, do I need people to need me? And a lot of this stuff, and I'll say it one more time, am I insecure? Do I want credit? Do I like control? Is it easiest to do myself? And then do I need people to need me? So it's 5 questions. I apologize. I knew I was missing one. So it's like every day I ask myself when I get a different answer. It's because I'm a different person, and I feel like leadership is evolution, and we have to be activists, not historians. The worst leaders are the ones that are like, dude, 2 years ago I did this. 3 years ago this is how this worked. I sold this many accounts then. It's like, bro, no one wants to work with a historian. We want activists. Someone wants a leader that's in the trenches with the fucking pitchfork, like with their people,
Yes.
So.
Yes. I love this. Wow. That's like we could go like down a rabbit hole around these questions just for days. I love this. This is so good. So let me ask you this. I mean, guys, if you're listening to this, first off, drop a comment and a like and a review on this freaking podcast, simply because it's already been so fire. And we just jumped straight to it. Half of us are like, wait, who is this guy now? So guys, go follow Devin Anderson and on Instagram, and check out like what he's doing. He's doing some really cool things. Shifting gears on like, you were talking to me about how you get motivated. So like you said, money, satisfied needs doesn't motivate. Or you talked about, it's like, why does Devin go so hard? I think a lot of people ask the question, it's like, why does Devin need a $30 million company or hundreds of reps? And why are you going so big? And why are you being part of something bigger? Like what makes you hungrier or more motivated than the average Joe? Because I think the biggest problem out there is these guys are out knocking. A lot of times they just are like, why do I need more? And they get complacent. And so I'm curious some of the reasons that get you fired up.
Oh my gosh. So I've put in a lot of consideration of this, and it's just something that I've always asked myself. Thank you for asking this, by the way. But so even now, I'm 21, and a lot of I started doing solar when I was 16. And I think I've always had this chip on my shoulder of always being the youngest guy, always being looked at one point, someone's little brother, and a kid, and oh yeah, that's cool. Like, oh, you're like, I always felt like I had a chip on my shoulder, and I'm sure it had a lot to do with being insecure, but the backhanded compliments when I was like 17, 18 of like, oh, and then I started building teams, and I had my first team when I was 17, 18, 19. 18 was when I was like at a corporate company, over 1,500 accounts a month as a manager, and like I was leading adults, and I didn't get that respect that I felt like I deserved. And I felt like I had this mentality then, and I still do now, but I felt like I always had to deliver for the people who did believe in me, because I knew that they could work anywhere for anyone, and they chose me. And that meant a lot to me. And that really made me feel like I had the obligation to step up and prove myself right for one, and prove them as right as well. That was like the first reason. So, and then like the second thing is like, I kind of said it, I'd say those were two reasons right there. It was like, one, I felt like I had something to prove. And two, for the people who did believe in me, I'm like, I got your back, you know? It's kind of like if you're a prize fighter and your boy's like, dude, I just put 10 grand on a parlay on you, bro. Good luck tonight, no pressure. You know, it's like, I've got people to go deliver for. So, I think the third one is, I'm a firm believer that the pillow does not lie. And I know every single night when I go home, like my pillow talks to me. And I just got to a certain point because I was pretty average. My first 3 years, solar was tough, like tough. Like sell 7 one month, sell 1 the next month. I'd make 70 grand, but spend 90 of it. Yes, that's correct. And I just got to a certain point to where one day I just broke down crying and was just like, WTF? Like, what? Like, this is all on me. And I just got to the point of understanding like anxiety is a messenger. And if you have a feeling of anxiety or like uncertainty, like for one, that's your body speaking to you. Tune in and tap in, understand, listen, slow down and say, we know exactly at 99% of the time what we need to do. The problem is we listen in here or social media or some sort of outside influence beside of going inward. And I think us being able to like tune into that anxiety when we feel it, and knowing that we're not coming up or we're not showing up for ourselves or the people that don't believe in us or do believe in us and whatever gets you going, is a massive disservice. And the fourth thing is, I said this earlier, but growing up, football for me was my sales, it was my business, and it was like the only thing that was black and white. It was a science, right? It's to the liberal arts thing, and same thing, business for me and sales, door-to-door sales it feels like that same thing. It's very black and white. It feels like a science to me. And I'm a father, I'm married, the most difficult thing ever. Very young, Sam, I've had so many conversations with you, and I think we could do a whole nother podcast on relationships and marriage and being a father. And that's easily my biggest hardship right now, especially not having some sort of navigation of what it looks like to be a good father, husband, not having a father figure in my life. Whole nother conversation, but it's just like business for me is like when I tune into the doors, I feel at home.
Yeah.
When I'm building out systems and processes, I feel at home because it's so black and white, you know, compared to being a father. Like, holy crap, that's not black and white. That's a liberal art. Being a husband is not black and white. There's Brene Brown, there's all of these beautiful books that are esoteric and great systems and processes, but there is no type of manual on human connection and collaboration at an intimate level. So like, I think for me, it's kind of, I've been able to create this as an anchor, and it works out. And then number 5 is like, I'm motivated by fear and inspired by gain. So I'm motivated by fear, inspired by gain, but like, it doesn't really excite me getting a Lamborghini. I live, not to be this guy, but like, I live in a beautiful home. I've got a beautiful vehicles, whatever. What scares the crap out of me is looking my son in the eyes and saying, I'm sorry, your daddy didn't do his job. We've got to move. The place that you call home, we have to leave because daddy didn't deliver, you know? Or like to my baby girl, like that's not a fucking option. That's not an option.
Love that.
And That terrifies me.
I think there's an element to that. Like I got married when I was 22. Obviously, you've been married a kid. You're 21. I mean, you had to grow up fast. I think a lot of guys in sales, they don't grow up simply because they don't have the same type of responsibility. And I wouldn't say this is a reason to go married and have kids, but I think there's an element.
For sure.
Some people get trapped chasing temporal things and flash, and there is no responsible need to have more income. And so check yourself and be like, what else could I supplement? Maybe family and kids. Maybe it's, immediate family, like mom, dad, brother, sister. Maybe it's, an investment strategy that scares you, but it's like your fear that motivated you to say, I'm not going to let my family lose this. I don't want to let them down, is a driving force to be like, I'm trying to build something that's long lasting, make hay while the sun shines. Like me, I'm like, I think there's a lifespan of door to door. Some people might fight me on this, but like there's a point in time after 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, everybody kind of reaches a shelf life of like, I don't know how much longer I want to be like straight knocking all day. Like I either want to go into leadership, business ownership, like at some point you're going to get a tick or an itch to do not just the door knock itself all the time. And embrace that chapter probably longer than you think. The thing that people probably overskipped, 16 is when he got into door to door. He's now 21. That means he has 6 years on the doors. That means, there's 5-6 years of him grinding the streets still out there that many people didn't see. And so that's why I kind of want to make sure people know that. But like the reality is, I look at this thing as like, I want to set myself up so much financially to where that is my motivation to earn even more, because it's like I'm stocking away money for the winter or for new opportunity once I'm, at the place where I'm ready to kind of hang up the cleats a little bit more.
100%. We can talk about that later, but that's one of the biggest things that starting a business I thought would be able to accelerate that. And it's actually done the opposite. We're in massive scale mode right now. And like we're more liquid than we've ever been before, but we're also our burn rate. It's just a weird dynamic. And that's a whole nother conversation. We can finish this queue, but it's like people think being a business owner is glorified. If I went back 2.5 years ago, I'd go to one of those bigger companies. I'd say, hey, pay me $2 million a year. I don't want any overhead, and I'll build a 150, 200 person region. And I want a cash bonus. Any liquidation event, give me some sort of cash bonus or points on the balance sheet, or not on the balance sheet, the cap table, to be able to strategically engineer an exit for me. And I think the problem with the industry right now, to where I'm going to plug my company, I'd be a fool if I didn't, is there's this huge, massive gap right now, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, to where there's either you go to I'm not going to name any companies. I'm not trying to plug any other company but this one, but there's some massive companies to where a guy like me, there's no room. And I am a fucking key player, I am very valuable, and it's built out. And then anything else, I'm too qualified, right? And if you resonate that, there are companies out there that have that happy medium, that have the right processes, the right back-end support, the right finance department that can get down, making sure payroll is processed, cash flow analysis, FP&A, right? These financial planning and analysis mechanisms to be able to make sure that they're forecasting and they're just a responsible business. That's what I would have done in hindsight, because being a business owner is not glamorous. You know this more than anyone, Sam. It's like all of my sales guys are making more money than me, and I'm stoked for them, right? Because our core focus here is maximizing enterprise value. But I wanted to touch on that for a lot of people who are sales rep, or they were like me and had 60, 70 reps working for a great company and thought that they had it all figured out. And they were like, I'm going to go make more margin. This isn't fair. My reps should get paid more. Like, these are literally all of the things that I'd said to my ex-CEO. And he's like, but Devin, that's just not how things work, man. Like, I say this with like all due respect. I know for a fact 99% of the people who have that mentality don't really have the work ethic, the aptitude, or the willingness or commitment to make shit work than someone like myself or you or some of the players that we've seen actually get it done.
Yeah. Amen. I love that like little side rabbit hole we just ran down. Okay, let's get back to your what makes you
of course. Let's jump back into it. So I heard one time that most great coaches are players are old players who never were ever good enough. And that resonated with me so much. Just going back on football, growing up as a kid, I was the best of the best until I wasn't. And like high school hit, and I went from like being really good to everyone got developed and trained, and I worked my ass off. I'm talking about I was in the gym every morning, Monday through Friday at 5 a.m., working out, going to school, drinking a gallon of water, like strict nutrition, the best trainers, etc. My goal was to play 1A football. I did not hit that goal. For me, I was a failure because I only ended up getting AA Division I scholarships, which is like a Wagner, a Monmouth, a Richmond, a Morgan State. A lot of these HBCUs offered me like that. To me, that wasn't success. I wanted like Oregon, Alabama, like big time ball. And even at these schools that I got offered with, I'd go on my tours and my visits and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna redshirt. I'm going to sit the bench for 4 years and maybe be on kick return my senior year, 5 years into college. And that really upset me because I just wasn't genetically gifted enough, right? Like I'm a 5'9" guy running a 4.5 40, but there's my competition next to me is 6'2" running a 4.4 40. And instead of being 170 pounds, he's 190 pounds.
Yeah.
So I think that I never really operated with having a plan B, I like mentality. I think that's what losers do. Winners just figure it out. And I was at a crossroads where I was like, I can either go to a university and my destiny will be join a fraternity, be a football player that rides the bench and is a practice dummy for 5 years straight, drink myself away for 5 years and sleep around and just be a hooligan, or fast track my career and implement the same consistency, discipline, and ideology and fast track my life and really go ball. But instead of interceptions, I'm getting paychecks.
Yeah,
and I think that was the pivot.
No, and I think what's beautiful is, like you just said, that there's certain athletes that didn't have, or there's certain individuals that you look at a characteristic of somebody that's able to get up in high school at 5 a.m., somebody that's able to stick to nutrition disciplines, somebody that's able to have the wherewithal to be that focused. And I think that translates so well into sales or into business. And I watched like who you are is who you are. And you can start changing those identities. But I watch so many people think that they're a hard worker or they're going balls to the wall. And I'm like, what do you mean? You got up at 8 a.m. and then you worked out for an hour and then you dinked around with your friends and then you rolled out to the meeting and like, he's talking about 5 a.m. and this and doing this. And like, the regimen translates so well into entrepreneurship. And like you said, instead of interceptions, that you're not getting paid a dime in college to where you can actually go get a return on that. So I love that.
Yeah. So, and then like, I want to live hard and I want to live 100%. And I need to do a better job as a father and a husband for sure. And then I've always dreamed bigger and faster. And like, just dream big, fast. Dream bigger, faster. That's what I've always done a great job with. It's like my goal is to help 100 people become billionaires before I leave this planet.
Love that. Okay, what else? Anything else?
That's it, bro. That's my 10. So like those are like near really. Oh, and then I saw my dad have everything and lose everything, and that goes back to being terrified of doing that to my children. My dad was a very successful businessman and lost it all, not because of a market, not because of an industry change, not because of an economic crisis, because he simply just screwed it up and self-sabotaged through literally his own decisions. So for me, I think what happens is that typically breeds two types of people. either the person that's full of resentment, that's like, oh, like my dad was like, I'm a victim, like I had such a childhood. Or someone that's like me, that's a savage, that's like, okay, I'm 100% going to go that way instead of the way that you went. I love you. Thank you for this lesson. You were my greatest teacher. I'm going to go this way though. Thank you. I appreciate this lesson, but you bought and paid for it, and I chose in another universe and dimension for you to be my father. So I'm going to take this as my esoterical lesson to go this way. Love you, Dad. And that's what I did. So God rest his soul. He passed away like 4 years ago at a very young age because of those decisions. But yeah, I mean, that's really it.
I went through a very similar experience with my father. He created massive businesses, lost it, was broke, driving a Buick when he was 60 years old. I mean, like,
yeah,
lost all of his retirement. And then I'm sitting there in high school and I'm just watching us live in this small little basic house. We moved from Park City, Utah, one of the rich, like multi-million-dollar home, you know, and just like watching us go through losing it all and seeing my composure of my dad. Like, he didn't like lose his self, like he stayed in alignment, which was beautiful to watch. But like, it kind of has created an insecurity or a trauma for me to say, or just a protection strategy to just say, that's why I care so much about real estate. I always ask my dad, what's your biggest regret? He's like, I sold off all my real estate. I wish I would have just kept it and had cash flow so that when shit hits the fan in business, I've got a secondary resource. Like, or, you know, just watching kind of the pendulum swing so many times, I'm like, okay, take risks, be aggressive, think big, but also protect your net worth, like scale that as well, not just business. And I that's why I stock so much like I'm like a, don't buy the Lambo, go buy another investment property like mentality. And I've had that my whole career, and I've chalked away so many acorns for rainy day and for the winter that it's just made it much more fun and enjoyable knowing I have that safety net. And I think it had a lot to do with my father-son dynamic, and it sounds like you have a very similar one.
100%, and same concept. I don't have nearly as much real estate as you, but the portfolio that I currently do have gives me a peace of mind. I don't really know what could happen to where I'm currently operating right now to where I'd ever lose everything. Yeah. Like, it'd be really hard just because of the positions that I've already put myself in with real estate and how much equity I have into my homes, to where all I have to do is make a call right now. I can do a HELOC, I can do a cash out refi. I think real estate is a get rich slow scheme. So it has to be a very, very dire situation for me to ever think about selling. And anything that I buy in terms of real estate, I'm never selling. If I buy something, I'm in it to win. Like, I'm in it for good. Like, I'm not, there's Devin Anderson and the Anderson Foundation. We do not sell, we only acquire, you know? So it's like, if we're going to buy something, are you willing to hold on to this thing for 20, 30 years? So, but yeah, I resonate to that. And there's obviously levels to the game that we play, but I definitely resonate with that.
Here's an interesting concept. I just had Jefferson, and he's also in our mastermind, and you know him, and he texted me. He's like, hey, I just pulled out some crypto stuff. I was like, you're pulling out crypto right now? He's like, no, I pulled it out 2 months ago. He's like, I sold my Luna at $90 and now it's at 0.00001, like not even a penny. And I'm over here like, I hadn't paid attention to my Luna, so that sucks. But number two, but I was like, in my head, I'm like, how many people are sitting there crapping bricks right now with looking at crypto prices when they got in at 60,000, 50,000, and they banked their whole like livelihood on that, or they banked their whole livelihood on certain things. And I'm like, if I'm you, it sounded sexy with the get rich quick elements of crypto, and it's a strategy. But had I put all of my eggs, I did put a big chunk of money in there, but had I put all of my eggs there and cashed out here and followed the shiny object, like for me, the vehicle, never take your foot off the gas. It's printing the money today. And number two is take the Warren Buffett approach, is when everybody's scared, that's when it's time to invest. So now would be the good time to get crypto. And then when everybody's getting bullish is the time to start pulling out. And like, he talks about it so much, and he's one of the richest dudes in the world. And it's like, guys, that's my 2 cents on investment. And the market right now is going to shift quite a bit in real estate. Like you said, I'm not selling. So it's like, I've gone through downturns in my real estate, and it's like, okay. Like I look at interest rates trying to buy a home right now. What happens? Rent becomes stronger because less people can get into homes, and then the market's going to soften. And at that point, you want to have cash stocked away when all the prices go down. And then you say, let's acquire at that point. So like there's a strategy here. So if you're in sales and you're looking to get investments, I would be smart about how you manage that and manage your money.
So the problem with most people is two things. Is one, there's this wise man named Sam Taggart that once said to me, and he looked at me like an old man, and he said, you know, if something costs your peace of mind, it's too expensive. You know, and I think that's the first thing. It's a perfect example. I put 200 grand in this hedge fund, and in January, it's supposed to be killer returns. Got half of the returns of what they said I was going to get. Still got a 35% return. I think I made 70 grand in 6 months, hypothetically, right? Pulled it out 5 weeks ago. It was supposed to take 10 business days to clear. Hasn't cleared yet. Now, you know what I immediately thought? Well, I might have just got scammed out of 200 grand. So goodbye, $200,000. I'm at this, and still it's not in my bank account. So I'm assuming that I'll never see that money again. But it's the ideology.
I know. I had one of those that I need to follow up on. I'm texting him right now because I'm like, wait a minute, is this still a thing? So keep going.
Yeah, so, but I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, so I just lost 200 grand. And I've come to terms for that, but I also put myself in a position to where like I'm not going to lose my house, my business, or anything like that. It sucks, and I'd love to have 280 grand is total what I'm supposed to be getting back. But it is what it is. God forbid if I would have went all in on that, like, holy crap. And the second thing is people think the barrier of entry is so difficult with a lot of these things to where it's like, guys, if you want to buy real estate, fucking call a realtor and say, hey, just show me what I need to do to get pre-approved.
That's it.
And then they're going to say, no, you need this, 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 and this. And then make it a definitive point to go get that. Because what happens is I'm on property, I have 5 doors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 doors, 3 properties. But now I'm at the point now to where unless I want to, I never have to spend my own money again to acquire real estate. I can always just use other people's money or my current equity and roll that into more properties.
It's true. Guys, I mean, that's how I like people are like, we're buying all this stuff. I'm like, I'm just keep rolling up. Like
you just roll up, you know, I'm going to defer. And I think situationally it can make sense to sell. So I don't want to say that it never makes sense to sell, because I love, like, you can 1031. So those who don't know is I can sell a property, take that equity, and then go purchase another property and defer the taxes that I'd owe in that profits into another property. It's called a 1031 exchange. And Sam's the king of that. I think that makes a lot of sense. But a lot of times people will see a scary object or they won't feel like dealing with the adversity. I had 2 hot water heaters go out to like a couple weeks ago, $6 grand overnight. You know, most people, I think when adversity comes, they're just like, no, like, this isn't worth it. Like, I'm selling, like, real estate's a scam. It's like, nah, dude, hold the line, because you just made $45,000 last year in appreciation because of inflation, you know? So what were you going to say?
No, I 100% that. I think I would second his advice right now. Hence, we've had a lot of conversations around this. So I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
100%. So we got to kind of wrap up.
So advice for sure.
Any direct sale guy that's young, hungry, hustling right now, what advice would you give him? The sales guy.
On selling or life, on business, on what?
Selling, like in selling, because you sold a lot. You're a good sales dude. Like, what advice would you give him to get his numbers up to where he wants to be when he's not where he's want to be right now?
Easy. I've sold the most in my life when I was the most in tune with myself spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Your perception of you as or your perception of them as a reflection of you. Period. So if your story is people don't make same-day decisions, I don't have the right this, no one wants to talk to me, this market is burnt, this is this, that's 100% going to be your reality. If your reality is everyone that I talk to is a lay down, they literally see me outside. As soon as I knock on their door, they answer. They're like, solar? Oh my gosh, there's no way you're at my house right now. Come inside. And people are asking, you have the belief system. When I'm in a home, people are asking me, how do I get selected? How do I qualify? That's going to be your reality. They say faith. Oh my gosh, I have some nuggets just real quick to end this. So it's like there's negative prayer and there's positive prayer. Positive prayer is when you have a definitive purpose and belief behind the intentions through your conversations with God. It's a certainty and it's conviction. You know, I'm facing a lot of adversity in life right now. And this morning when I spoke to God, it wasn't, God, please help me. I need your help. No, I was like, God, my boy, I am so excited. Thank you so much for putting me in this position because I know you always come through for me. I am so excited to see how this works out perfectly for me. I don't know what you have in store for me, and that's not my business, but I need to let you know that I have full faith, conviction, and certainty in your plan. Negative prayer is victimization. Why? Help me, I don't know what to do. Why me? Da, 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 da. So it's like implement positive prayer. I talk to God every single day in the morning deliberately, full-blown conversations. But it's always through the backing of strength. Even when I don't feel like I have it, I still pull through because it's my duty, because I know he'll always show up for me.
Love that.
So whoever needs to hear that.
Moms. I just heard it from Devin Anderson, the one and only. Guys, I appreciate you guys listening. We've got some cool events coming up, July 28th and 29th, Closer School Live, Boot Camp August 15th and 16th, Door-to-Door Con's coming up around the corner in January. Get your teams fired up. Guys, life is good, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks a ton, Devin.